At the end of the decade, Canada's First Nations face a new threat from an unexpected quarter.
Il faut faire comprendre aux Canadiens, et singulièrement aux Indiens eux-mêmes, qu'il faut un choix. Ou bien on entre dans la société canadienne de plein pied, on est égal devant la loi, on a les mêmes droits que les autres Canadiens, ou alors on reste à part, on a des lois particulières et on est des citoyens un peu différents, pas des citoyens à part entière.
In a white paper, the Trudeau government proposes to abolish reserves, close their schools, and integrate Native children into white schools. Harold Cardinal is outraged.
Now at a time when our fellow Canadians consider the promise of a just society, once more, the Indians of Canada are betrayed by a program which offers nothing better than cultural genocide.
Cardinal is one of very few natives in Canada with a university education. He is only 24 when he becomes president of the Alberta Indian Association.
The Indian people become like Indian affairs, then they can govern themselves.
Jean Chrétien is the Indian Affairs Minister who must implement Trudeau's policy. 200 Alberta chiefs, among them Harold Cardinal, immediately challenge the policy. It's an unprecedented show of political force.
Until then, you saw Native leaders in full regalia only when we danced for the Queen. There had never been a face-to-face meeting between the country's ministers and First Nations leaders. It was a breakthrough.
They tell the government they want to control their own affairs.
Et les Indiens ont dit non. Nous ne sommes pas prêts. Nous voulons garder notre statut d'Indiens.
The first challenge occurs in Alberta. The federal government wants to close the Blue Quill School, which serves children from 11 reserves. It is run by Catholic priests and nuns. Stanley Redcrow has 2 children at the school. He is also the only Native who works there. He is furious.
This is our school. We can take it, we can run it ourselves. We won't need the sisters, and we don't need the priests for education.
The parents ask Indian Affairs to let them run the school. Harold Cardinal supports them.
Our theory was that if we had greater control over the educational system teaching us, if we were able to set up our own institution, we would have better success.
The department won't budge. The parents decide they will take over the school. They set up camp in the schoolyard. They hold prayer meetings in the gymnasium. Natives across Canada rally to their cause. After 2 weeks, Jean Chrétien himself steps in. He challenges one of the mothers, Edith Memnuk.
He asked me, "How can you run a school with no education yourself?" I told him, "We'll do it, and we'll start by hiring our own educated people."
The government gives in. The parents can run the school. Charles Wood, manager of the Saddle Lake Band, understands the difficult task facing them.
When you have been told for years that Indian culture is no good, that our customs are pagan rites that must be banned, it's hard to feel you have any power.
The first school board includes representatives from all 11 reserves. In September 1970, Blue Quill School becomes the first school in Canada managed and operated by Aboriginal people. Mike Steinhauer becomes its executive director.
The first thing I did was take down all the crucifixes from the walls. All the traces of white religious domination in our education.
For Margaret Queenie, a Frog Lake Band counselor, their victory opens the way to a brighter future.
We wanted to bring back Indian culture. For the children. To give them back pride in their heritage.
We're not going to sit here and allow the white men to use and to make fun of us in this land of ours.
The government withdraws its white paper, and across the country, First Nations are asserting their rights. They make their strongest cases in the courts. In British Columbia, Frank Calder and the Nisga'a Tribal Council claim ancestral territorial rights over the Nass Valley.
The Nassau people are not on trial in this issue. The Indians in British Columbia are not on trial. British justice is on trial. We're not going to stop. We're not going to be defeated.
The Nisga'a lose their case, but in a landmark judgment, the Supreme Court of Canada states that Indian land rights could exist. In northern Quebec, the Cree of James Bay and the Inuit win a judgment that stops Quebec's largest hydroelectric project for a week. It leads to the first comprehensive agreement in modern history. After centuries of deprivation, Canada's First Nations will no longer be taken for granted. Governments must now negotiate with them. But progress will be slow.